team, this training video will show you how to use the invoice building features of the new website. The first thing that you're going to want to do is to log in, and when you're in your account, your default page is going to be the Open Jobs page. You will look for the job that you've just completed, and it should be listed with the date and time that you completed that appointment, and your next step would be to click Submit Paperwork, which would open an invoice. However, once in a while there's a glitch in the website and an open job is not created. This is not to be a problem. All you have to do is access the customer profile, type in the client name here, and then choose that client's profile and submit. Whenever you're in a client profile, you can see how to add a new invoice directly from here. We'll click Add a New Invoice, and that generates all of the customer information here, and you are able to check the TVID that is involved, and then you're going to double check the information here. Now in this case, it defaulted to today's date, but I'm going to build this invoice for the actual date of the appointment, which is what yours will default to, 3/27. We also want to make sure that the date is entered here for the invoice due date, which would be the same date as the last appointment date. So if you're making 2 visits, the due date would be the last time that you saw that customer. Make sure that's filled in. The website automatically generates an invoice number. You're going to select your territory, which in this case was Palm Beach. And then the first line that you'll type in is what we used to do in QuickBooks as the diagnostics line. This is the scope of support or the reason for the call. So in this case, very simply, the computer would not boot. There was no power. And just a simple description of what the reason was for the call is all that goes in that box there. You can use multiple lines if it's a longer description. Please do not just copy and paste the notes from the appointment generator that came on your email or on your calendar event, because those are not always written in the best professional way. So you want to make sure that you professionally list the diagnosis here. The next thing you're going to do, of course, the first line of every invoice is services. So you're going to put services here and the services that you provided. And in this case, it was a diagnosis of Tower PC, mainboard defective, install of new all-in-one PC, transfer of data from old hard drive, and install of Sage accounting software and update, and the install of the printer driver for the Epson WF 3450 printer. Okay? As always, the services line needs to be complete with everything that you did on site, so we have a record of that. The quantity will always be 1, the rate will always be 0, and there's no pay rate for that line. The next line that we'll add would be the recommendations line. Services, then recommendations. In this case, the recommendations to the client were to purchase, was the maintenance plan. And this is several, so we're going to list them like this. Maintenance plan, purchased, Office Pro 2016, they declined that one. Malware, bytes, premium, also decline this one. And backup of system and or data files weekly. Those were the recommendations there. It's not necessary that you list out whether they declined it or not. Richard had chosen to do that on this invoice, and that's fine if you want to, but you could just go ahead and leave those and maybe mark what they chose to do, but not decline there. Again, the quantity's 1, the rate is 0. There's no pay rate on recommendations. So the next line is the hardware sales, or any sales that you make. Hardware or software goes next. And so we're going to add in here a hardware sale. And this was a sale of a Dell Inspiron 24-inch all-in-one. And it was model 3459 series with 8 gigabytes of RAM, an i5 processor, and Windows 10 Pro. All right, that was the sale there. Now, here's where we are going to enter the rate, of course. So this computer was sold for $11.99, and we're going to now select our pay rate. So when it comes to hardware or parts, you need to make sure that you go over to Special Amount, Used Part, and select the part that you used for this line of the invoice. So in this case, we're going to choose the Dell Inspiron All-in-One, and we are going to select the percentage, which for an on-site technician in the primary area is 60%. And so that completes out and calculates properly the commission for that line. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the next line, which was the hardware sale of the solid-state drive that was installed in that Dell Inspiron. And that solid-state drive needs its own line because it's its own part. And so what you'll have to do here is the line is ultimately going to be 0, but we first change it to $1. Then we can open up the pay rate. If it's 0, you're not allowed to click on the pay rate. So by changing it to $1, we have access here to Special Amount, Used Part. We can select one of these solid-state drives that was used, and we can select the percentage. And then we'll go back and adjust this here back to a $0 line. So the customer sees that they didn't pay extra for that. It was included in the cost of the computer on the line above. But we do need a separate line for each part on the invoice. The next line that we would add here is the maintenance plan. And Richard sold a maintenance plan sale. So we're going to click MP Sale here. And we're going to adjust the start date very carefully to the date of the sale and the end date very carefully. Those R's and N's that you see in there, that are the coding for adding a return there, and you'll see that when we select the PDF. This was $99, and the pay rate for that, of course, is the maintenance plan of $15. The next thing we're going to add, which is the last line of any invoice, would be the labor line. And in this case, labor is added as VIP because this was a VIP appointment. And so we're going to change the amount here to 2.5 hours. The time stamp was 10:50 to 11:20. And, of course, the consultant initial and last name goes right here. Then we adjust this to 2.5 hours, and we collect the on-site primary there. Now, we've built this invoice out, and so we've built the invoice and we can see the outstanding balance. Now there was a prepayment, which you'll normally have. It's VIP, so it was $100. So I'm going to click that to apply it. And now I see that the balance on this account for this invoice is $1543.18. That's what needs to be charged for me to be able to submit this. I cannot submit the paperwork until I have the balance zeroed out. So I'm going to click Continue Later, having jotted down $1543.18. I'm going to head over to that, from my Opens Jobs to the client profile. I'm going to see the credit card on file, and I would enter the amount, $1543.18, and then click Charge. Now I'm not going to click Charge here because I have already charged this, so I'm going to show you how to enter a payment that does not appear if it was maybe run through Clover. And so down here what we'll do is you're going to, this is how you would add cash payment, a check payment, or credit card done another way rather than through the website. So you're going to choose, in this case, client made a payment via credit card. That's what you would choose if you ran it on Clover. You'd enter the amount, $43.18. You would write your notes. In this case, this was run through the website on Stripe another day. And so I'm adding that payment back. It was $327. You could write in here Clover, CC, and then the last 4 digits as well. But in this case, we'll just leave it to be Stripe and submit. And so now that payment is going to show here underneath the payment information. And when we go back over to our Open Jobs and we go back to submit that paperwork, we can double check everything's there. We can look down here and check the $100 payment, the $1543.18. We now have a balance of 0. Here's where we would upload the paperwork. We would choose the file for the on-site invoice form and upload that there. And then we will see our commission, verify that that's correct, and submit paperwork. Okay, once you've submitted paperwork, you'll see that on your Open Jobs, it is now pending approval from admin. And I'm going to walk you through what happens after the admin approves that. I forgot to show you one more thing. So we're going to click on View Profile after we submit the paperwork. Once the paperwork has been submitted, it will show up here on Completed Invoices. And you can see the total amount. Here's where I'd like you to go ahead and grab the PDF, save that PDF so that you can attach it to the email thread for Tanya. And then she'll have that there. Now back to our Open Jobs list, you'll see that once the paperwork is approved, you have a green button that says Send Paperwork to Client. So you're going to press that green button, and that automatically sends a nice email from you to the client thanking them for their business. And so I'm pressing that here. And then your next step is to request the admin to close that lead. So it's fully paid for, the invoice has been approved, you have sent the paperwork to the client, and now you're going to close the lead. And it turns red. If it's red, it lets you know that you have indeed closed the lead. Now, once the admin approves it, it's going to disappear from your Open Jobs list. If I refresh my Open Jobs list, you'll see David Cole disappear. And now, where would we find him? Well, we would look over here on the live payroll, and we would see that we can find him here with the job total, the commission total, and we could even click and view the invoice from the payroll summary there. So that's where things go once they are done. Now real quickly, if the invoice is not approved, you'll see a declined paperwork button, and you'll need to go into those, look at the red notes, make those changes for the administrator, and then submit to admin again. And that will initiate the process at that stage where you're waiting for approval to then send the paperwork out to the client. Hopefully this was helpful to you, and you're now ready to build invoices and close leads on the new website.